All right, what is going on, everybody? I know we're a little bit late on the baseball preview slash recap of the AL and NLDS series, and I apologize for that. Just been caught up with work, obviously football, and then watching the new series take place. So sometimes your boy gets a little bit distracted, and it's tough to keep up these games. It's not like football, it doesn't happen once a week. You fall 3 days behind, it's like, holy shit, they're already on game four. So we're going to catch up on all of it. We're going to kind of break down how the previous series went and then what's going on so far in the two championship series. So before we jump into all of it, like and subscribe, comment down below. Want to know who you're picking for the World Series and if you've been right so far on your predictions and what players you think are having an impact that you thought so, and then what players are kind of coming out of nowhere. So without further ado, let's jump on into it. We're going to start with the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Guardians. Goes all the way to 5. And we knew it would, and we knew that this series would combine for about 12 total runs at the end of it, and it was just about that. Tarek Skubal was lights out in Game 2. He got the pill for Game 5, ends up giving up a huge grand slam to Lane Thomas, who has had a couple big hits for the Guardians so far this series, and the Guardians did pull it out in 5, and if you're the Tigers, you got to be happy with the progress that you've made this year. Nobody expected you to get this far, let alone be on the brink of being one series away from playing the World Series, and you had the best pitcher on the mound in Game 5, and one swing changed it. So, lot to like for the Tigers moving forward. Maybe Torkelson gets his bat back. You have Riley Green, who kind of emerged as a solid OPS guy. Obviously, Tarek Skubal. You got Reese Olson, some other pitchers on that staff that you feel good about moving forward. So, no shame in where you made it so far this year, and sucks that your journey's come to an end. But overall, this was a good season for you guys, and now hopefully you can build on that. Sometimes we see these upstart teams like the Diamondbacks last year get all the way to the World Series, and they're not even in the playoffs this year. So hopefully you keep this upward trajectory slash ascension. Tried to create my own word there. Points for creativity. But moving on to the Guardians, feels like they're just in it every year, and they're the same team, and they'll get bounced for the same reason. They play good defense, they're smart on the base pass, and they have good timely hitting. But solid pitching is the main reason they get there, and that's exactly why they're here right now. So, obviously Jose Ramirez is their star player, and Josh Naylor as well, both pretty quiet in the ALDS, but tonight, just watching the Yankees game, even though they lost, Jose Ramirez gets a home run in the 9th inning, which the game was pretty much over, but maybe that's a little spark that you need, because he was almost the second player in history. I think he was one double and one stolen base away for going into the 40-40-40 club, which is 40 doubles, 40 home runs, and 40 stolen bases. That's incredible. So you get him going. He is the heart and soul of that team. So if he can kind of move, and then Josh Naylor, he's their, big hit guy. So you're going to need some production out of them. You're not going to make it any further if you can't. That's just a fact. This team doesn't have enough firepower. Stephen Kwan, he's great. But outside of that, Andres Jimenez, Brian Rocchio, these guys are not very big power hitters or run drivers. They're slap the ball to the opposite field, get a base hit. Maybe every once in a while they'll rope something into the gap and stretch it into 2 because they got some speed. But this team going up against, spoiler alert, the Yankees in the ALCS, they got a lot of firepower on that squad, and they have good pitching. So they're really going to have to tighten it up either on the pitching side or bring it on the hitting side. So you're back in the playoffs again. You win another series again, and you face the Yankees again because the Yankees beat the beat the Royals in 4 games behind the bats of Juan Soto and Gleyber Torres. Solid pitching from Luke Weaver and Clay Holmes. That bullpen for the Yankees with Tim Hill and, the starting rotation, obviously, of Cole and Rodon. Pretty solid names and numbers there. Juan Soto's doing what Juan Soto does in the postseason, almost hitting 400, just getting on base, it seems like every other at bat. Aaron Judge is a little bit slow, which does worry you. He's the best he's the best regular season hitter, but he's really struggled in the postseason. And you have to factor in maybe he's a little bit tighter, which is normal. But also how much of that is teams aren't willing to pitch to him anywhere near the strike zone because it's way bigger stakes. And even though you've got to pitch around Juan Soto to get to him, and then Giancarlo Stanton, who was on a freaking tear in this series, probably the MVP of the series, you're still going to be able to live with those hits and runs if it's not coming from Aaron Judge. You want to make the supporting cast solve that problem for themselves. And you just wonder how much does that leave him in a funk, because he's not getting any mistake pitches. The air is colder. The pitching is better. The defense is better. The stakes are higher, so probably a little easier to get into his head. Now tonight, I'll give you a little bit of a taste of what's to come. He may have had a big hit. Foreshadowing. The Royals, similar to the Tigers, although I do like the Royals squad more than the Tigers, you have the second best player in the AL on your team with Bobby Witt Jr., and he was quiet in the series, but he got you to this series. And even if he went 0 for 20, there's no way the Royals fans would ever boo him. He is no doubt the MVP if Aaron Judge played in the NL. He had a great year, and you had some surprise pitching from Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, and Cole Ragans, as they would say on Talking Baseball. So, you like where this team is headed. Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, still seems like he's going to be having a late career resurgence. And there's some things to like from this squad. Maybe you go out, you get a big name free agent, kind of add a little bit of pop to that team. You could use another left-hander that could really drive the ball. So, you feel good about the season, just like as the Tigers. Really, even though you got bounced, this was a win of a year for you. And we kind of touched on the Yankees, and we'll wrap it up really with this. This is a Super Bowl. Wow. Wrong sport. This is a World Series or bust squad. This isn't make it to the World Series. This is we have to win it. They've gone all in this year. Your lineup is Gleyber Torres, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton as your top 4. And you still got Rizzo. You've got Volpe. You got Verdugo. I mean, there are players all up and down this lineup that would start on every team. Your starting pitching is Rodon and Garrett Cole as your 1-2. And you got a solid bullpen, like we just mentioned. So this is the year to do it if you're going to do it. And we'll just have to see how it goes. They're off to a good start, and we'll jump over to the NL before we hop back and talk about the championship series. But a lot to like so far from how the Yankees are playing in the ALCS. Moving on to the NLDS recap, we're going to start with the Mets and Phillies. And really, what more can you say than this is awesome? This is classic postseason baseball. Classic fairy tale team, New York Mets, who at one point this season, people were telling them they should blow it up. and just drop all the players on their roster that were up for a contract or they could get good prospect compensation for, and they stuck through it. Credit to them. They believed in their squad, which at the time felt like a mirage, that they were just saying the politically correct thing to make sure the fans don't stab them as they're walking through the subway. But I think they might not have been lying, because this team caught fire, just like the Padres and the Royals, and went on a run. In the second half of the year, they really found themselves. Francisco Lindor, you hear some talks about, should he be the MVP? There's one MVP in the entire MLB, and that's Shohei Ohtani this year. But if he, like I said, if Judge played in the NL, Bobby Witt Jr. would have gotten the MVP. Well, if Ohtani played in the AL, Francisco Lindor would get the MVP. So he had a hell of a year. Carries you all the way to the last game of the season where he hits a 2-run go-ahead homer to get you into the playoffs. And then Pete Alonso hits a huge 3-run homer to take the lead in the top of the ninth against the Brewers. And then in this series, guess who does it for them? Mark Vientos. Have you ever heard of him? Probably not. I didn't before this year. Only know him from playing MLB The Show. He had a Topps Now card. On an absolute heater. Over 450, 1.2 in it on the OPS side of things. Just big hit after big hit. First game. Top of the ninth. Hits a massive home run to give the Mets the lead, where they ultimately won the game. And then in game 2 has another crucial hit where the Phillies end up one of the best playoff games we've seen in a while, where they just trade runs back and forth. Castellanos ends up getting a game-winning hit to even the series 1-1, but it was all the Mets show after that. They took game 3. And then in game 4, 6th inning, bases loaded. You couldn't write it any more perfect. Kevin Costner would be proud. Francisco Lindor hits a go-ahead grand slam, and the Mets move on to the NLCS. I'm all over the place, guys. Just an incredible moment for the Mets, and Francisco Lindor, as he was rounding the bases, he showed not a single iota of emotion. It almost seemed like he knew this moment was going to happen. Not a smile, not a laugh, not a grimace, not a slight skip in his step as he was rounding the bases. Gives a hug to Marte as he gets to home. Just an incredible moment. And through all the bullshit that he went through his first couple years with the Mets, how they were booing him 3/4 of the way through the season because he was batting .220 and they had the contract issues, and how they didn't even want him on the team, and now he's the biggest reason why you have a chance to play in the World Series. So, had to be an incredible, relieving moment for him, and you're happy for the guy. He's a class act, obviously great baseball player, small market, played with the Guardians. Now he's playing in the big city. Maybe it took a little bit to get acclimated to the New York media, because it's a psychotic pressure, no doubt. Moving on to the Phillies, I wouldn't say the pressure to win it all was the same as the Yankees, because the Yankees, they're so close every year, and they obviously play in the New York media, and the Yankees are, arguably the biggest sports franchise in the country and over the entire globe. So the pressure's on them every single year. The thing is, you felt like this was the Phillies' year. They end up with the best record in baseball. Bryce Harper playing solid. Trey Turner missed some time to injury, playing solid. Kyle Schwarber, singles or home runs. That's all he really does. Good pitching out of Wheeler and Nola. Solid bullpen with Alvarado, Ranger Suarez as well on the starting rotation. Just a lot of pieces. Alec Bohm, RBI machine. And then obviously Castellanos, Real Muto, Bryson Stott. A lot of pieces on that squad that you felt like this was the year. And, Bryce Harper had another nice series where you were thinking to yourself, is he going to go on another crazy run and bring these guys the trophy home? And unfortunately, they just ran into the red hot Mets. And they got bounced in 4. And that's got to hurt. Sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, especially in baseball. You sit for a week, you get a little bit stale, takes you a game or two to get live pitching back under your belt, and before then, the series is over. I wouldn't mind in the future having these wild card rounds be one game, and then ALDS, CS, and the World Series are all best of 7. Because ultimately, you want your best teams in the dance. And not any slight to the Mets, they're obviously one of the better teams. But the Phillies, you could argue, were the best team, and whoever wins, wins. And you got to say they earned it. But you don't want to sell yourself short of having any extra awesome baseball. So, this one hurts if you're the Phillies. You thought it was your year. You didn't have any big injuries come postseason time. And you just ran into a buzzsaw. So that really sucks. But the good thing about this team, Castellanos under contract, Harper under contract, Turner under contract, Real Muto, he's not going anywhere. Bryson Stott, he's young. You have your core really secured, so you're going to build some chemistry, build a little bit of grit, build a little bit of resilience with each other, so you'll pick it up where you left off last year, and, just try to do it again, pretty much. Final NLDS series, we got the fucking rivalry that is just the best on the West Coast of any sport. Dodgers and Padres. And this series gave you everything you wanted. It gave you underdog versus Goliath. It gave you big brother versus little brother. It gave you fans interfering. It gave you storylines from the beginning of the season. It was awesome. And Fernando Tatis, even though the Padres lost in 5, it was so nice to see this guy perform on such a big stage. That's the one thing we hadn't seen. Him playing in front of people in the playoffs. And he showed out. And the Padres, even though they lost, similar to the Phillies, because they are expected more. This isn't a Tigers or a Royals situation where, you just exceeded expectations. No, this squad is loaded. You have multiple converted infielders with Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis playing center field and right field, and at an incredibly high level. Jackson Merrill, probably rookie of the year if Paul Skeens doesn't get it. He looks like he's going to be a stud center fielder. Fernando Tatis, we know what he is. Manny Machado, getting a little bit older, but age doesn't matter as much in baseball. Bogarts had a down year, but you lost Ha-Seong Kim right before the playoffs started. You have Cronenworth. Luis Arias is turning into one of the more underrated players in baseball. And I think the loss of Joe Musgrove coming into this series hurt you the most, because who would have been your Game 4 starter? Joe Musgrove. San Diego native. Probably puts you into the NLCS. Dodgers hit your bullpen around a lot in that game. You don't get a lot of innings out of your guys. And you missed that key starter in that game. But the big thing with the Padres is, can they sustain this level of production throughout the entire year? Because they were the hottest team in the second half of the season. But the first half of the year, they were barely over 500 for probably 40% of it. They just are on this roller coaster of up and down that they can't seem to put it all together, and you were wondering, are they even going to make the playoffs? And should they just blow this thing up because something isn't right? Well, they gained a lot of camaraderie throughout the season, and it was great to see. And now going into next year, you expect this team to be a World Series favorite, no doubt. So excited to see how they pick up. Same with the Phillies. And for the Dodgers, you're in the exact same boat that the Yankees are in. This is World Series, or why'd you even show up? So, Ohtani didn't do much without runners on the bases, but when they were, he drove them in, got hits, huge 3-run homer in game 1. Freddie Freeman just showing ultimate toughness, gritting through that ankle injury. Mookie Betts gets hot, pretty much hits 3 leadoff home runs in a row. The first one got robbed, but then he had the 2 others, back-to-back games. Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez with a couple fucking piss missiles. And then the big story here, Dodgers pitching. Just lights out in game 4 and 5. And partially through the end of game 3. 24 consecutive scoreless innings. They were dominating the Padres lineup, which, newsflash, lots of firepower. Game 5, everything on the line. Yu Darvish pitched a really nice game. Besides 2 swings, that's a hell of a game he pitched. They gave up 2 freaking hits. They were dominant. And their game 4 was a bullpen game. 9 different pitchers. And they shoved the Padres. This is what you needed. You needed to see a gritty performance from the Dodgers. Backs against the wall. We will not give in. And you got that. So now they're facing the Mets. And the series is tied 1-1. They come out. They win 9-0 game 1. Hits all over the yard. Ohtani got a couple. Kike Hernandez is just continuing to be clutch in the biggest situations. But in game 2, for Francisco Lindor, who else? Hits a leadoff home run to break their scoreless inning streak for the Dodgers as a pitching unit. And the Mets carried that to the win. So, series is tied up 1-1. This one feels like it's going to go at least 6, probably 7. But then on the flip side, you got the Yankees and Guardians. Yankees are already up 2-0. I don't see the Guardians even winning a game here. Yankees just have too much firepower. Too much is clicking right now. Judge hits a 2-run homer tonight in the 7th inning. Maybe breaks his cold streak. Cole doesn't have a great night and they still win. It's just not a great sign. Carlos Rodon gets the ball in game 1 and was just dominant. His slider was, the nastiest I've seen it all year. If you're the Guardians, you just don't have the firepower. And being a small market team, you can blame it on that. You got to go out and you got to pay some guys. Because you had an opportunity to still have Lindor, but you traded him because you didn't want to pay him the big contract. Well, guess what? He could have been the difference maker in this situation. So, I got Yankees in a sweep in this one, and Dodgers and Mets got to be a Game 7 situation. Super excited for it all. Gonna recap it as it ends, and we'll touch base through some shorts, kind of give you a brief little recap of what's going down. But October baseball, baby, it's the best. And even if you're not a big fan of watching it on TV, the new pitch clock rules, the games go by so much faster. And these are the final 4 teams. And you can say they're the best 4 teams. So, should be plenty of excitement. I would say most definitely tune into the Mets and Dodgers. That series has the makings of being one of the better ones we've watched in the more recent years. And I know the MLB's praying for Yankees and Dodgers, but Yankees, Mets, that would be pretty sweet. And I gotta say, my gut is telling me Dodgers, but my heart's telling me Mets. And obviously the Yankees, I gotta think that they're taking on the Mets. I just think they got something special going on. I can see the Mets winning this whole thing. Some teams just get hot. The Rangers last year. Some teams just get hot. So excited to see the rest of it. Guys, have a safe night. Have a great day tomorrow. We'll be back on to talk some football. Crazy stuff happening in the football world. So tune into that. And then, yeah, like and subscribe. And have a great day, y'all. Peace out.